Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. Coast is clear, babe, she whispered, her voice tinged with excitement and a hint of nervousness. Dad's not due back until tonight. Derek stretched, his muscular arms reaching above his head.
Perfect. A whole day just for us.
Aliana couldn't help but smile as she watched him. They'd been dating for 6 months, but her overprotective father had no idea. At 18, she felt she was old enough to make her own decisions, but convincing her dad of that was another matter entirely. She crossed the room and settled next to Derek on the bed, running her fingers through his hair. What should we do today? Before Derek could answer, the unmistakable sound of a car door slamming echoed from outside. Aliana's blood ran cold. She leapt to her feet and raced back to the window, her heart pounding in her chest. "Oh no!" she gasped. "It's Dad! He's home early!" Panic set in as Derek bolted upright. "What? I thought you said he wasn't coming back until tonight." "He wasn't supposed to," Aliana hissed, her mind racing. "Quick! You need to hide!" Derek scrambled off the bed, looking around frantically. "Where?" The sound of keys jingling in the front door spurred Aliana into action. Her eyes landed on her closet, and a wild idea formed in her mind. Without a second thought, she yanked open the closet door and began rifling through her clothes. "What are you doing?" Derek asked, confusion etched across his face. Aliana pulled out her school uniform, a pleated skirt, white blouse, and navy blazer. She thrust the clothes into Derek's arms. "Put these on, now!" "What? Are you crazy?" Derek stared at her in disbelief. "Trust me," Aliana pleaded. "It's our only chance. Hurry!" The front door opened downstairs, and her father's voice called out,
"Aliana, are you home?"
With no time to argue, Derek began stripping off his clothes as Aliana kept watch at the bedroom door. She could hear her father's footsteps on the stairs. "Almost done," she whispered urgently. Derek tugged the skirt into place, his face a mix of embarrassment and fear. "This is insane," he muttered. Aliana turned back to him, her eyes widening. The uniform fit him surprisingly well, but his short hair and masculine features were a dead giveaway. She grabbed a hair tie from her dresser and quickly pulled his hair back into a small ponytail. "Aliana?" Her father's voice was closer now, just outside her door. In a flash of inspiration, Aliana snatched her makeup bag and began applying foundation to Derek's face, focusing on his jawline to soften his features. She added a touch of blush and a swipe of mascara, working with lightning speed. "Coming, Dad!" she called out, buying them a few more precious seconds. She stepped back to survey her handiwork. It wasn't perfect, but in the dim light of her room, it might just pass. Derek looked utterly bewildered, shifting uncomfortably in the unfamiliar clothes. "Remember," Aliana whispered, "your name is Brittany. You're my friend from school. We're studying together." Before Derek could protest, Aliana opened the bedroom door. Her father stood there, a look of surprise on his face. "Oh, hi, Dad," Aliana said, trying to keep her voice steady.
"I didn't expect you home so early."
Her father's eyes moved from Aliana to Derek, who was doing his best to look natural despite the extraordinary circumstances.
"I didn't realize you had company,"
her father said, his brow furrowing slightly. Aliana forced a smile. "Oh, yeah, this is my friend Brittany. We were just studying for our history test." Derek gave a small wave, his voice higher than usual as he squeaked out, "Nice to meet you, sir." Aliana's father nodded, seemingly satisfied with the explanation.
"Well, I'm glad to see you're taking your studies seriously. I had to come home early because my business trip was cut short. I thought we could spend some time together, maybe do some shopping for your upcoming birthday."
Aliana's mind raced. She couldn't very well send Derek or Brittany home now without raising suspicion. "That sounds great, Dad. Would it be okay if Brittany came along? We were planning to study all day, and I'd hate to cut it short." Her father smiled. "Of course. The more the merrier. Why don't you girls get ready and we'll head out in about 15 minutes? As soon as her father disappeared down the hallway, Aliana closed the door and leaned against it, exhaling deeply. Derek stared at her, his eyes wide with disbelief. "I can't believe that worked," he whispered. "But Aliana, what are we going to do now? I can't go shopping like this." Aliana bit her lip, her mind working overtime. "We don't have a choice. If we try to back out now, Dad will get suspicious. Just try to act natural. We'll find a way out of this, I promise." Derek ran a hand through his hair, forgetting about the ponytail for a moment. "This is crazy. What if someone recognizes me? We'll say you're my cousin visiting from out of town," Aliana said, thinking on her feet. "Come on, let's touch up your makeup and try to walk more delicately." The next 15 minutes were a crash course in feminine behavior. Aliana gave Derek a quick tutorial on walking in the uniform's modest heels, applying lip gloss, and speaking in a softer tone. By the time her father called up to them, Brittany was as ready as she'd ever be. As they descended the stairs, Aliana's father beamed at them. "You girls look lovely. Shall we get going?" The car ride to the mall was tense, with Derek perched uncomfortably in the back seat, trying to remember to keep his knees together. Aliana chatted animatedly with her father, hoping to keep his attention away from her disguised boyfriend. "So, Brittany," her father said, glancing in the rearview mirror, "Aliana tells me you're in her history class. What's your favorite period to study?" Derek's mind went blank for a moment before he stammered, I really enjoy learning about the Renaissance." Aliana jumped in. "Yeah, Brittany's really into art history. She knows so much about all those old paintings and sculptures." Her father nodded approvingly. "That's wonderful. It's so important to have a passion for learning." As they pulled into the mall parking lot, Aliana's father's phone buzzed. He checked it and smiled. "Oh, good news. My girlfriend Brenda is in the area. I've invited her to join us. I think you girls will really like her." Aliana and Derek exchanged panicked glances. Another person added to this charade would only complicate things further. But before they could object, Aliana's father was already out of the car, waving to a stylish woman approaching them. Brenda was in her early 40s, with sleek blonde hair and an infectious smile. She greeted Aliana's father with a kiss on the cheek before turning to the girls. "You must be Aliana," she said warmly, embracing her. "Your father's told me so much about you." She then turned to Derek. "And you must be Brittany. It's lovely to meet you both." Derek managed a shaky smile and a quiet, "Nice to meet you too," as Brenda linked arms with Aliana's father. "I hope you don't mind me crashing your shopping trip," Brenda said. "I thought it might be fun to have a girls' day out. What do you say we start with some clothes shopping?" Before Aliana could interject, her father was nodding enthusiastically. "That's a great idea, honey. Why don't you take the girls to find some nice outfits? I've got a few errands to run, but I'll meet up with you later for lunch." And just like that, Aliana and Derek found themselves being ushered into a trendy boutique by an excited Brenda with no chance to protest or escape. As they entered the store, Brenda's eyes lit up at the displays of fashionable dresses and accessories. "Oh, girls, this is going to be so much fun. Let's find you both something fabulous." Derek shot Aliana a panicked look, but she could only offer a helpless shrug in return. They were in too deep now to back out. Brenda began pulling dresses off the racks, holding them up to each of them in turn. "Aliana, this blue would look stunning with your eyes. And Brittany, darling, I think this soft pink would be perfect for your complexion." Derek's face flushed as he awkwardly accepted the dress Brenda handed him. Aliana could see the distress in his eyes and knew she had to do something. Brenda?" she said, trying to keep her voice casual. "Brittany's a little shy about trying on clothes. Maybe we could start with something else." Brenda's expression softened. "Oh, of course. I'm sorry, Brittany. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. How about we look at some accessories first? Everyone loves a good scarf or necklace, right?" Relieved, Derek nodded, managing a small smile. "That sounds nice, thank you." As they moved to the accessories section, Aliana's mind raced, trying to figure out how to extricate themselves from this situation. But every time she thought she saw an opening, Brenda would enthusiastically suggest another item or store to visit. They spent the next hour trying on scarves, browsing through handbags, and looking at jewelry. Derek became increasingly adept at deflecting attention, letting Aliana do most of the talking and offering only brief, non-committal responses when directly addressed. Just as Aliana thought they might make it through this ordeal unscathed, Brenda's phone chimed. She checked it and grinned. "Oh, how wonderful! The salon just had a cancellation. I've booked us all in for a little pampering session. We'll get our hair and nails done before meeting up with your father for lunch. Won't that be fun?" Derek's face went pale, and Aliana felt her stomach drop. This was rapidly spiraling out of control. "Actually, Brenda," Aliana began, desperately searching for an excuse, "I'm not sure if we have time for—" But Brenda was already ushering them out of the store and towards the salon, chattering excitedly about different hairstyles and nail designs. As they approached the bright, modern salon, Derek leaned in close to Aliana, his voice barely above a whisper. "I can't do this. There's no way they won't figure it out." Aliana squeezed his hand reassuringly, though she felt far from confident herself. "Just let me do the talking. We'll get through this somehow." The salon was a flurry of activity, with the sound of hair dryers and quiet chatter filling the air. The receptionist greeted Brenda warmly, clearly a regular customer. "Welcome back, Miss Brenda. I see you've brought some friends with you today. What can we do for you, ladies?" Brenda beamed. "We'll start with manicures for all of us, and then I'd love for you to work your magic on the girls' hair.
Nothing too drastic, just a nice style and maybe some subtle highlights."
Aliana's mind raced, trying to find a way out of this situation.
"Oh, Brenda, that's so generous of you, but really, we don't need—"
"Nonsense," Brenda interrupted, waving away Aliana's protests. "It's my treat. Every girl deserves to feel pampered sometimes." Before they knew it, Aliana and Derek were being led to adjacent manicure stations. Derek's hands shook slightly as he placed them on the table, and Aliana could see the panic in his eyes. The manicurist smiled at Derek.
"First time getting your nails done, sweetie. Don't worry, we'll start with something simple and natural."
Derek nodded mutely, his jaw clenched tight. Aliana watched helplessly as the manicurist began working on Derek's nails, filing and shaping them with practiced ease. As they sat there, Brenda chatted happily about her twin sons, Luke and Lance, who were apparently around their age. "You girls should meet them sometime. They're such nice boys, always so polite and well-mannered." Aliana made non-committal noises of agreement, her mind whirling as she tried to come up with a plan to escape this increasingly complicated situation. But every time she thought she saw an opening, Brenda would unknowingly close it with another suggestion or comment. After what felt like an eternity, their manicures were complete. Derek stared at his newly shaped and polished nails with a mixture of fascination and horror. The pale pink color was subtle, but to him it felt like a glaring beacon of his deception. "Time for your hair appointments, girls," Brenda announced cheerfully, leading them to the styling area. Aliana was seated first, and she watched in the mirror as Derek was guided to the chair next to her. The stylist ran her fingers through Derek's hair, humming thoughtfully. "You have such lovely, thick hair," she commented. "What were you thinking of doing with it today?" Derek's eyes widened in panic, but Aliana quickly interjected. "Oh, Brittany's been wanting to try some loose waves, right? Nothing too drastic, just something soft and natural." The stylist nodded approvingly. "That would look beautiful on you, Brittany. Let's get started, shall we?" As the stylists worked on their hair, Aliana's mind raced, trying to figure out how they were going to get out of this situation. She knew they couldn't keep up this charade forever, but revealing the truth now would be disastrous. Just as the stylists were putting the finishing touches on their hair, Brenda's phone buzzed. She checked it and smiled. Oh, perfect timing. Your father just texted. He's finished with his errands and is ready to meet us for lunch. He's suggested that lovely Italian place in the new wing of the mall. What do you girls think? Aliana's heart sank. She had hoped they might be able to make an excuse and leave after the salon, but now it seemed they were in for an extended performance.
Sounds great,
she managed to say, forcing a smile. As they left the salon, Derek caught a glimpse of himself in one of the full-length mirrors. His hair now fell in soft waves around his face, and combined with the subtle makeup and manicure, the transformation was startling. He looked pretty. The realization made him stumble slightly, and Aliana quickly steadied him. You okay? She whispered. Derek nodded, swallowing hard. This is just a lot. Aliana squeezed his hand reassuringly. I know. We'll figure this out, I promise. As they made their way through the mall, Brenda continued to chatter excitedly about various shops and sales. Suddenly, she gasped and came to a stop in front of a shoe store. Oh, girls, look at those adorable sandals in the window. They would go perfectly with your new looks. Come on, let's try them on. Before Aliana or Derek could protest, they found themselves being ushered into the store. Brenda quickly found their sizes and handed them each a pair of delicate, strappy sandals with a small heel. Derek stared at the shoes in his hands, a look of abject terror on his face. Aliana leaned in close, whispering, Just slip them on quickly. We'll say they don't fit right if we have to. With shaking hands, Derek managed to get the sandals on. To both his and Aliana's surprise, they fit perfectly. Brenda clapped her hands in delight. Oh, you both look adorable. These are a must-have. I'll get them for you. My treat. As Brenda went to pay, Derek turned to Aliana, his voice barely audible. I can't walk in these. I'm going to fall and blow our cover. Aliana bit her lip, thinking fast. Just take small steps and hold onto my arm if you need to. We're almost through this, I promise. They left the shoe store, Derek walking carefully in his new sandals, gripping Aliana's arm tightly. As they approached the Italian restaurant, Aliana spotted her father waiting outside. He waved as they got closer, a broad smile on his face.
There are my girls,
he called out.
And don't you both look lovely? Brenda, you've worked your magic again.
Brenda beamed with pride.
Oh, they were lovely to begin with. I just helped bring out their natural beauty.
As they entered the restaurant, Aliana's father held the door open, gesturing for them to go ahead. Derek hesitated for a moment, unused to such chivalry, but Aliana gave him a gentle nudge forward. They were led to a cozy booth in the corner of the restaurant. As they settled in, Aliana's father looked at Derek with a warm smile. So, Brittany, tell me more about yourself. What are your plans after graduation? Derek froze, his mind going blank. Aliana quickly jumped in.
Oh, Brittany's been looking at art schools, haven't you? She's really talented.
Grateful for the assist, Derek nodded.
Yes, I love art. I'm hoping to study, fine arts and maybe graphic design.
Aliana's father nodded approvingly.
That's wonderful. It's so important to follow your passions. You know, I have a friend in the advertising industry. If you're interested in graphic design, I could put you in touch with him. He might be able to offer some advice or even internship opportunities.
Derek's eyes widened, realizing the hole he was digging was getting deeper by the minute.
Oh, that's very kind of you. I'll have to think about it.
As they perused the menus, Brenda's phone chimed again. She checked it, and her face lit up. Oh, how wonderful! My boys are in the area and want to know if they can join us for lunch. You don't mind, do you? Before anyone could respond, she was already texting back an enthusiastic yes. Aliana felt Derek stiffen beside her, and she knew he was thinking the same thing she was. More people meant more chances for their ruse to be discovered. A few minutes later, two tall, handsome young men approached their table. They were clearly identical twins, with sandy blonde hair and bright blue eyes. Brenda stood up to greet them with hugs. Luke, Lance, I'm so glad you could join us. Let me introduce you to everyone. This is Aliana, her father's girlfriend, and her friend Brittany. The twins smiled warmly. their gazes lingering on Derek for a moment longer than was comfortable. Luke spoke first, his voice smooth and confident. "It's great to meet you both. Mom's told us so much about you, Aliana." Lance chimed in, his eyes still on Derek.
"And Brittany, it's lovely to meet you too. I hope we're not intruding on your girls' day out."
Derek managed a small smile, his voice higher than usual, as he replied,
"Not at all. It's nice to meet you both."
As the twins pulled up chairs to join their table, Aliana could feel the tension radiating from Derek. She discreetly placed a hand on his knee under the table, giving it a reassuring squeeze. The waiter arrived to take their orders, and Aliana was relieved for the momentary distraction. As they gave their choices, she noticed Lance watching Derek intently, a small smile playing on his lips. Once the waiter left, Lance leaned forward, addressing Derek directly.
"So, Brittany, what do you like to do for fun?"
Derek's eyes widened slightly, caught off guard by the direct question.
"Oh, I enjoy painting and listening to music."
Luke joined in, his tone friendly and curious.
"That's cool. What kind of music are you into?"
Aliana could see Derek struggling to maintain his composure. She quickly interjected, "Brittany's really into indie rock. We were just talking about that new band. What were they called again?" Grateful for the lifeline, Derek nodded.
"Right, yeah, the Midnight Echoes. They're really good."
The twins nodded appreciatively.
"We'll have to check them out," Luke said.
Always looking for new music recommendations. As the conversation continued, Aliana noticed that Lance seemed particularly interested in Brittany, asking questions and laughing at even the smallest attempts at humor. Derek, for his part, was doing his best to stay in character, but Aliana could see the strain it was putting on him. Their food arrived, providing a welcome break in the conversation. As they ate, Aliana's father and Brenda chatted about their plans for the upcoming weekend, while the twins continued to engage Aliana and Derek in conversation.
"So, Brittany," Lance said between bites of his pasta, "do you play any sports?"
Derek nearly choked on his water.
"Sports? Oh, not really. I'm more of an art person."
Luke grinned.
"That's cool. I bet you're really graceful, though. You look like you'd be good at dance or something."
Aliana could see the panic in Derek's eyes and quickly jumped in.
"Oh, Brittany's super modest. She actually took ballet for years when we were kids, right?"
Derek nodded, shooting Aliana a grateful look.
"Yeah, but I was never very good at it."
Lance's eyes lit up. "I bet you were great. You've got the perfect build for a dancer." As the meal progressed, Aliana became increasingly aware of the looks Lance was giving Derek. It was clear he was developing a crush on Brittany, and she wasn't sure whether to be amused or terrified by this development. When dessert arrived, Lance insisted on sharing his tiramisu with Derek, much to everyone's amusement. Derek, trapped in his role, had no choice but to accept, his face flushing as Lance held out a spoonful for him to taste. As they finished their meal and prepared to leave, Aliana hoped that this would finally be the end of their charade. But her hopes were dashed when her father spoke up. "You know, it's such a beautiful day. Why don't we all take a walk in the park across the street? It would be a shame to waste this lovely weather." Brenda clapped her hands together. "Oh, that's a wonderful idea. What do you say, girls? Boys?" The twins readily agreed, and Aliana and Derek found themselves once again unable to refuse without arousing suspicion. As they left the restaurant and headed towards the park, Lance fell into step beside Derek.
"So, Brittany,"
he said, his voice low and flirtatious, "I was wondering if maybe you'd like to grab coffee sometime? Just the two of us?" Derek's eyes widened in panic, and he looked to Aliana for help. She quickly stepped in, linking her arm through Derek's. "Oh, that's so sweet of you, Lance. But actually, Brittany's not going to be in town much longer. She's visiting from out of state. Isn't that right, Brittany?" Derek nodded vigorously.
Yes, that's right. I'm heading home soon, but thank you for the offer."
Lance looked disappointed, but managed a smile.
"Well, maybe next time you're in town then."
As they entered the park, Aliana's father suggested they all take a leisurely stroll around the lake. The group set off, with Brenda and Aliana's father leading the way, followed by the twins and Aliana and Derek bringing up the rear. Derek leaned in close to Aliana, his voice barely above a whisper.
"We need to end this. I can't take much more."
Aliana nodded, her mind racing to come up with a plausible excuse. "I know. I'm trying to think of something. Just hang in there a little longer." As they walked, Lance kept glancing back at Derek, clearly still interested despite the rejection. Aliana felt a mix of sympathy and frustration. Sympathy for Lance's genuine attraction to someone who didn't exist, and frustration at the increasingly complicated web of lies they were weaving. Suddenly, Derek stumbled on the uneven path, unused to walking in the delicate sandals. He started to fall, but Lance was quick to catch him, steadying him with strong hands.
"Whoa, careful there,"
Lance said, his voice soft and concerned.
"Are you okay?"
Derek nodded, his face flushed with embarrassment. Yes, thank you. I'm just not used to these shoes." Lance smiled warmly. "No worries. Here, why don't you take my arm? Just to be safe." Before Derek could protest, Lance had looped his arm through his, holding him close. Aliana could see the panic in Derek's eyes, but there was no way to extract him from the situation without causing a scene. As they continued their walk, Aliana's mind worked overtime, trying to come up with a way to end this charade once and for all. She knew they couldn't keep this up much longer. Derek was at his breaking point, and the longer they maintained the lie, the worse the fallout would be when the truth inevitably came out. Just as she was about to fake a sudden illness to get them out of there, her phone rang. She pulled it out of her purse, her eyes widening as she saw the caller ID. It was Derek's mother. A plan formed in her mind instantly. She answered the phone, making sure her voice was loud enough for the others to hear. "Hello? Oh, hi, Mrs. Johnson. Yes, Brittany's right here with me. What? Oh, no, that's terrible." Everyone had stopped walking now, their attention on Aliana. She continued her performance, her face a mask of concern. "Of course, I understand. We'll head back right away. Don't worry, I'll make sure she gets home safely. Okay, bye." She hung up and turned to the group, her expression somber. "I'm so sorry, but we have to go. That was Brittany's mom. There's been a family emergency and she needs to get home right away." Derek, catching on quickly, put on a show of distress. "Oh no, what happened? Is everyone okay?" Aliana shook her head. "Your mom didn't want to say too much over the phone. We should hurry back." The mood of the group immediately shifted. Aliana's father nodded gravely. "Of course, we understand." "Do you need a ride home, Brittany?" Aliana jumped in before Derek could respond. "Actually, Dad, would it be okay if I drove Brittany home? I want to make sure she gets there safely and I can bring your car back afterward." Her father hesitated for a moment before nodding. "All right, that's probably for the best. Here are the keys.
Drive safely and call me when you're on your way back."
Brenda stepped forward, giving both Aliana and Derek quick hugs.
"I'm so sorry your day had to end like this, girls. Brittany, I hope everything turns out okay with your family."
The twins also expressed their concern, with Lance looking particularly disappointed.
"I hope it's nothing too serious, Brittany. Take care, okay?"
Derek managed a weak smile.
"Thank you all for your kindness. I'm sorry to cut the day short."
With a flurry of goodbyes and well wishes, Aliana and Derek finally extricated themselves from the group. They walked quickly back towards the mall parking lot, Derek still unsteady in his sandals, but too focused on escape to care. As soon as they were out of sight, Derek let out a long, shaky breath.
"I can't believe we pulled that off."
Aliana squeezed his hand.
"I know. I'm so sorry for putting you through all that. Let's get you home and out of these clothes."
They reached the car and Aliana unlocked it, both of them climbing in quickly. As soon as the doors were closed, Derek buried his face in his hands.
"That was the most stressful day of my entire life,"
he groaned. Aliana started the car, her own adrenaline still pumping.
"I know, and I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far."
As they pulled out of the parking lot, Derek lifted his head, a wry smile on his face despite his exhaustion. You know, in a weird way, I'm almost impressed we managed to keep it up for so long." Aliana couldn't help but laugh. "We make a pretty good team, I guess, even if it's for completely insane reasons." They drove in silence for a few minutes, both processing the events of the day. Finally, Derek spoke up, his voice soft.
"Aliana, we can't do this again.
We need to tell your dad the truth." Aliana nodded, her hands tightening on the steering wheel. "You're right. This was too close, and it's not fair to keep lying to him. Or to you. We'll tell him everything tomorrow, I promise." Derek reached over and squeezed her hand. "Together?" Aliana smiled, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. "Together." As they drove towards Derek's house, both of them exhausted but relieved, they knew that tomorrow would bring its own challenges. But for now, they were just glad to have survived their day of unexpected adventure and to have each other to lean on. The sun was setting as Aliana pulled into Derek's driveway, casting long shadows across the quiet suburban street. They sat in silence for a moment, the events of the day finally catching up with them. Derek turned to Aliana, a mix of emotions playing across his face. "I still can't believe we pulled that off." Aliana reached over and took his hand, squeezing it gently. "I know. I'm so sorry for putting you through all of that. You were incredible, though. I don't think I could have kept it together like you did." Derek managed a small smile.
"Well, I had a pretty good partner in crime."
His expression turned serious.
"But Aliana, we really do need to tell your dad the truth. This whole situation, it's just going to get more complicated if we don't."
Aliana nodded, feeling a knot of anxiety form in her stomach. "You're right. We'll tell him tomorrow, first thing in the morning before I lose my nerve." They sat in companionable silence for a few more moments before Derek spoke again, a hint of humor in his voice.
"So, do I get to keep the outfit?"
Aliana burst out laughing, the tension of the day finally breaking. "Only if you promise to wear it on our next date." Derek grinned, reaching for the door handle. "I think I'll pass. Once was more than enough for me." As he stepped out of the car, still a bit unsteady in the sandals, Aliana called out, "Wait, let me walk you to the door.
"It's the least I can do after today."
She hurried around the car and offered her arm to Derek, who took it with an exaggerated flutter of his eyelashes.
"My hero,"
he said in a high-pitched voice, causing them both to dissolve into giggles. At the front door, they paused, suddenly aware of the strange picture they must present. Derek still in full Britney mode, and Aliana trying to act the part of the gallant escort. Derek's expression softened as he looked at Aliana. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for getting us out of there, for having my back, for everything." Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.